Welcome, everybody. Let me get situated. I'm back. I have been procrastinating filming this video for a while, so that's why you haven't seen it yet. But here we are. Today, I'm doing it. I'm ranking Hayao Miyazaki's films. Yes, we love him. I thought initially about ranking all the Studio Ghibli films. There's a lot of those, so that was ambitious. And it just so happened that there were 10, an even number, films that Miyazaki wrote and directed by himself. So, according to Wikipedia, of course. So, these are those films. Today we're drinking Blood Orange Rooibos tea from Trader Joe's. They're not a sponsor, but Trader Joe's slaps. I'm sure you're wondering why we're in a new place, and I don't owe you that explanation. But I'm doing laundry at my parents' house, and I literally need to film this video so bad, and it's very well lit in here, so that's why. I just want to start by telling you all, I loved all 10 of the films I watched. They were all great. So it's hard to rank 10 movies that all are that good, but I've done it. And part of my personal rules for this was to not have any ties because, again, especially in the middle section, it was getting very muddy and, dependent on my mood in the moment if one was better than the other. So, this is a ranking. I've thought about it a lot because I've procrastinated filming this for so long. So I feel pretty good about it, but I did just make a change. So, we'll see what you all think. This isn't like the end all be all of Miyazaki film rankings. This is just like the vibes. So here we go. Number 10, last on the list, still a good film, Kiki's Delivery Service, which was a very cute movie. It was very good. I very much liked it. It was a great representation of being a 13-year-old girl, coming of age. Like, the vibes were there. But it wasn't as, intriguing as a lot of the other ones. I really liked the aesthetic of the film. It reminded me a lot of the phenomenal Pixar film Luca, but in a way, I kind of ended that movie and thought, now I want to go watch Luca. Kiki was so relatable. I was watching it like, wow, that was me literally 10 years ago. I did think at the beginning of the movie when that other witch was like, I'm a fortune teller or whatever she said, and Kiki was like, oh, all I can do is fly. I did kind of think the movie was going to be she was gonna learn a new skill, and it's fine that she just stuck to flying, but I did kind of think like we were gonna get some more like witch vibes from that. I guess it wasn't the worst thing. The main thing I was like a little confused by, it might have just been because this is a Japanese film and it was dubbed in English, and so maybe this was the idea and it just didn't like translate quite as well. But I think there's a lot of value in rest and like giving yourself a break and reassessing. I also think that that's very intentional and it's not just like, oh, I'm just gonna not worry about it and it'll all fall into place. Like, fundamentally, I don't personally agree with that, which was kind of like the message. That one, like, girl who had a cabin in the woods, which a little weird, but whatever. She was like, yeah, just like, don't even worry about it. You'll probably just end up randomly flying again at some point. Maybe when it's like the most important. And then it does. And it just kind of felt like the journey was handed to me and I didn't see Kiki actually be like, oh, I need to learn how to let go of control, or I need to give myself space and time to rest and grow. It just kind of felt like she was like, hopefully it comes back, and then she can once again fly again, right in the nick of time to save that adorable little boy. What a little cutie pie. Oh my gosh. And their little relationship where she's like, immediately there's animosity from her, and then obviously she's 13. That's what 13-year-olds do when they have a crush, and of course she had a crush. Anyway, I also liked the fact that she talked about her dress the whole time, and then she also never changed it. I feel like a lot of times when women in movies are like worried about how they look, by the end of the movie they have changed into what they wanted to be. whereas Kiki was like, I'm okay with where I'm at. So, cute movie, fine movie. It just did not stack up against some of the hard hitters on this lineup, y'all. Number 9. Now, it really hurt me to put this one this low because this was my first Studio Ghibli movie. My mom showed it to me when I was a kid. I remember weeping, and rewatching it cannot for the life of me remember what made me cry so much. But number 9, Ponyo. Ah, what a cutie little movie. I was very nostalgic for it. It was one of those early 2000s Miyazaki films, and so the voice cast in the English dubs were starting to become very familiar to me. Like Tina Fey, Liam Neeson, like these are the people I knew about at the time and I know now. Like I grew up on these celebrities, just had this like innate familiarity to it. I'm afraid of the ocean, but I also have a deep love and respect for it, so I don't really want to like go deep sea diving, but I love films and movies that like they look into that lore and I can watch it safely from my couch. So jellyfish are my favorite animals, so you start in a movie off with jellyfish immediately. I'm sold. I love it. It's so good. I will say, why were they 5? 5-year-olds can go on adventures too. But the adults in the story were very okay with 5-year-olds going on, I would say, life-threatening adventures. There's that one scene where like Sosuke and Ponyo are in their boat. They run into this young couple with a baby, and then that whole group runs into the government officials and emergency officials who are like taking people to a safe place, and they're like, we'll come back for you, maybe, like we'll see, maybe we'll come back for you. I'm like, if I'm in a national emergency and I see 5-year-olds, I'm like, where are your parents? We're gonna go find them, we're gonna make sure you're safe. Those I'm immediately making those children my responsibility if they're nobody else's responsibility. And they clearly were not. They were not. Additionally, I'm not very fond of Ponyo with chicken limbs. That was a little scary. Other than that, cute movie. Next on the list is Princess Mononoke. I was immediately thrust into the world and the story. Like, that was a great opening to a film. Also, I would say my biggest love for this movie was the visuals. I liked the gory elements. Also, like, Ashitaka and San are like so cute. We love a like grumpy girl and like innocent sweetheart boy. And he's like trying so hard to be like follow his moral compass and his what he truly believes to be good in this like totally screwed up world around him where everybody is doing harm to everybody. There, guys, there is this one shot in Princess Mononoke where it's like a rock with moss on it and like some grass and like maybe a lizard. And the rain starts falling on it and the rain gets progressively like heavier, and oh, it's just such a pretty shot. It was a very depressing movie, and like, hey, we all need to watch depressing movies. I mean, we don't need to, but like those are good to watch sometimes. And it was like, wow, this is like a fantasy world that is facing very similar problems to my very real world. Number 7, the surprise guest of this lineup, Porco Rosso. That was a really good movie. Guys, I think that the line "I'd rather be a pig than a fascist" ranks in some of the greatest lines in cinema. It was just very good at telling the story of like people who take part in violent conflicts and people who fight in wars and vets and like their emotional journey after they're done. Talk a great example of like telling a story about loss of innocence. Problems with the movie, why was that one girl 17? I just feel like, she could have been 25 and it would have been the same. Also, didn't love that the whole climax of the movie was like two grown guys fighting over a girl who was like 20 years younger than them. A lot of Miyazaki's other films, as a woman, felt better represented than I usually do in films. I feel like a lot of his women are very empowered and strong and intelligent, and I just felt like this wasn't exactly the same, but still really good. This next one's going to be a little controversial, but it is what it is. Number 6 on the list is Please Don't Hurt Me, Spirited Away. Now, again, I didn't dislike any of these movies. So, of course, I loved Spirited Away. It was so good. This was one of the movies I had actually never seen before. And so, because I knew its reputation, I came in with very high expectations. And those were, for the most part, met, but I didn't feel blown away. I also did some research, and it seemed like the period in time that Spirited Away hit the American market, it was just really good timing in terms of like offering the people a great example of animation that can be targeted at both children and adults. So, though again it's a good movie, I do think the time in history that it came to us helped with some of its hype. I love Chihiro. She's a great character, so loving and caring, and her journey from being very like conforming to society's expectations of her to speaking her mind and being her own person. I forgot to bring this up while I was talking about Princess Mononoke, but I think there's this expectation that a demon possessed boar god might be like the scariest visual in this lineup of films, but that is not true. The demon possessed boar in Princess Mononoke was not very disturbing to me. It was not unsettling. Things that were unsettling in some of these films. No Face specifically with frog legs. I could stand No Face any other moment, but when he had those frog legs, I couldn't stand it. Also, Ponyo with chicken limbs. I was not into that. I would much prefer the demon possessed boar. Anyway, I did really like Spirited Away. I didn't love it more than the movies I have ahead of it. And that is the truth. And all I can say is I'm so sorry. Next on the list, oh, I'm doing this. I'm doing this because my friend, when The Boy and the Heron came out, was like, this is not Miyazaki's best film. This is not better than his other movies. And I was sitting there like, I don't know that I remember most of them. And I don't know that I've seen all of them. So this was that. And here we are, The Boy and the Heron number 5. I think it was the best intersection of Miyazaki's fantastical world and his reality world. It felt most reminiscent of My Neighbor Totoro, in like the Japanese countryside setting. And what a beautiful look at mortality, legacy, your connection to the people in your life who you've lost. Not too melancholy though. I felt like it was more lighthearted than it could have been. Like I walked away thoughtful, but certainly not sad like I did with Princess Mononoke. And we have a new addition to the list of things in Miyazaki films that are scarier than a demon possessed boar god. Give it up for green human eating parrots. I was scared of those birds. Next on the list, number 4, The Wind Rises. Talk about sad and like deeply resonant as a creative person. First of all, if you love Pride and Prejudice, I really think you'd love The Wind Rises. I don't know, I can't exactly explain why, but that was like the connection I was getting. I loved how it looked at balancing your career and your love and your personal life, and the fear that if you create things, it could be used for bad. Coming to terms with the fact that you can only take the leap of faith to either create it or not create it. You really have no control of how people are going to use it. Visually amazing. It was like being in a painting. Miyazaki has so many films that even if it's not the main backdrop, it is part of the backdrop to have like flying machines of some sort. So to have this like biographical story about a man who makes airplanes came together really well. So now we're at top 3. Top 3. Here at top 3, we've got, well, what I would consider the top 3. So here we go. Number 3, My Neighbor Totoro. I am an older sister and I have a younger sister, and I felt very seen. Sotsuki is like bossy but caring and very protective, outspoken but very likely to like follow the rules. All these things I'm saying are also true about me, or were especially true about me when I was a child. May, a little more adventurous, very imaginative, and all these things remind me very much of my younger sister. Some things I didn't love about this movie, sad. I was mad that I was made to be sad. And two, cat bus. Let's add that to the list of things scarier than a demon boar. Fleshy cat bus. Not into that. That's scary. Why? Because I was just thinking about the cats I know, how if they were a giant hollow bus, but they had their flesh on the inside and the outside, I wouldn't like sitting in it. Also, where are cat bus's organs? Number two, this was the first film I watched in this watch through. Castle in the Sky, Miyazaki's first film. I should say, I am notoriously fond of filmmakers' first films. The two that come to mind are Baz Luhrmann's Strictly Ballroom and Wes Anderson's Bottle Rocket. Like, I think I just love when an auteur has a great dense filmography, and then you go back to the first one and you see it in kind of its raw creative form. Anyway, Castle in the Sky was just like great. Also, as someone who's raised by parents who grew up on the like 80s adventure film, I consumed a lot of that genre in my life, and so it was very to me reminiscent of like Willow and Labyrinth and these like fantastical, beautiful worlds that were a little quirky, a little silly, a little scary. Ladies, if your man does not say your name as often as Patsu said Sheeta's name in Castle in the Sky, he might be the wrong man. Because why was Patsu, all his lines in the whole movie were Sheeta, Sheeta, Sheeta? And that is so cute. Why do you keep saying her name? Do you just love her name and like, oh, coming out of your mouth? That's adorable. And like the earliest stages of Miyazaki's look at like human relationship with nature and human relationship with power. It all started there with Castle in the Sky. Now, ladies and gentlemen, number one, my personal favorite of Miyazaki's 10 films that I've ranked here today, Howl's Moving Castle. Guys, guys, guys. This has been one of my favorite movies for a while now. It was always going to rank very high, so I'm not surprised at all. A beautiful, beautiful fantasy world, a beautiful found family story. Christian Bale, come on now. Come on now. We love him. He does so good. Slay, girly pop. Also, Sophie, add her to the list of characters I really deeply related to because she was like, you know what? I'm an old lady now. Who cares? I think I was also meant to be an old lady. And if that comes with like moving in with like a very melodramatic wizard boy, let it be. It's a great fantasy movie that just like stands the test of the genre being dynamic and changing. On here for like, I have pros and cons for each movie. On here for cons, I have ha 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 ha, because there are none. I love how I've gotten less eloquent the more I like the movie. But you get it, or you don't, and you really, really need to watch Howl's Moving Castle. These were the films, and here's the ranking list. Thanks for joining me. As always, talk to me about tea. Do you like the blood orange rooibos from Trader Joe's? What tea do you want to see me drinking next? Yeah, have a great rest of your day or night.